with me 1 second. I can hear myself for some reason, and I don't want to hear myself. Good morning, one and all. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're all fit and well. Progress. Progress is a strange old beast, isn't it? For one reason or another, I've spent the past 24 hours or so immersed in construction equipment history. I've looked back to the days when I look back to the days when steam gave way to diesel as the industry's primary fuel source, when ropes and pulleys were succeeded by hydraulics, when canopies and benches were replaced by cabs and proper seating. And one of the things that struck me about these giant shifts within the industry is that they didn't happen overnight. Old technology was phased out over a course of years and sometimes even decades as new technology was phased in. And today we find ourselves in that same cycle yet again. Diesel will slowly give way, most likely to a combination of electric and hydrogen power. Manpower will slowly give way to remote control or autonomous control. And perhaps the weirdest thing will be the human reaction to this latest round of progress. We look back at the age of steam and the early days of hydraulic power and ask ourselves, how did they ever get by with such old-fashioned equipment? But there will come a time when a future generation will look back at the industry of today in precisely the same way. They will question why we were happy to have electric machines that were capable of only half a day of work. They'll question why we wasted so much of the Earth's finite lithium resources on such inefficient equipment. And they will question why all the early hydrogen-fueled machines look like they have a hump on their back. But that's the thing. Hindsight is always 2020. And while future generations may look back in puzzlement at what we consider state of the art today, we were doing our best with the technology available to us, precisely as our forebears did with their steamrollers and their rope shovels. Now, just so you know, I have cut today's gripe of the day as short as is humanly possible to ensure that we've got lots of time to talk about equipment brands that we have loved and lost. And that discussion was the actual inspiration behind today's question of the day. So, do you miss Michigan? Do you reminisce about Rust and Bucyrus, or do you pine for Pucklane? We'll get to all that at the end of the show. But without further ado, let me roll the intro, post that question of the day about the old time machines, and get this show on the road. It is Wednesday, the 19th of July. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, XCMG unveils a big new wheel loader. How Cat machines can now express their needs through VisionLink. MB Crusher goes to work in Spain. Plus, we'll be looking back at the history of one of the giants of the construction equipment sector, Case. And we'll get to all of that in just a second. But first, let's peer back for the first time of a number today. Peer back through the mist of time to see what was happening on this day in history. On this day in 1545, Henry VIII's flagship Mary Rose sank in Portsmouth, and she would lay there for another 437 years until she was recovered back in 1982. In 1692, the Salem witch trials hanged 5 people, each accused of witchcraft. Another 14 hangings would follow. In 1843, the SS Great Britain was launched. Designed by Isambard Kingdom Brunel, it was the first ocean-going craft with an iron hull. In 1940, this one did tickle me, I have to say. In 1940, Adolf Hitler ordered Great Britain to surrender. Being British, we politely declined. In 1976, rock group Deep Purple disbanded. And on this day in 2011, Captain America, the first Avenger, opened in Los Angeles. Now, before we get to the real meat of the show, let me quickly remind you of our question of the day. Yeah. Now, this is not which band would you reunite for one final gig. For me, that will always be Ultravox, but that's a whole other story. No, in this instance, the question is, which construction equipment brand from the past would you love to bring back for one last shot at the big time? Who do you think had what it takes to compete in today's market? Which companies or brands vanished before their time, and which companies still belong on the global stage? Personally, I'm going with Aveling Barford, partly because they were British, but also because I worked for them for about 5 years as well. I'd love to see another RD55 truck roll off the production line up in Grantham. I'm saying that. I haven't been there for a while. My guess is it's probably a housing estate by now, but I'd love to see another RD55 coming off the production line. But what about you? Who do you miss? Who would you like to bring back? Let me know in the chat, and we'll get to that at the end of the show. It is now just a few weeks since XCMG officially declared their presence in the UK market with their appearance at the Plant Work Show, and already the company has a new model to shout about. That new model is a big wheel loader, and it looks like this.
Hello guys, today I'm excited to introduce our new 15-ton loader, XC9150, the largest addition to XCMG's lineup of super large loaders. Following the success of the 9350, China's largest tonnage loader, in 2020, XCMG proudly presents another remarkable product. Let's take a closer look at this big guy. The XC9150 has an impressive overall weight of 55 tons and at a rated load capacity of up to 15 tons. With a maximum breakout force of 370 kN. It's equipped with the standard 7.7 cubic meter bucket, perfectly matched with 35 to 70 ton mining trucks. This makes it ideal for large-scale open-pit mining, transportation and loading operations, offering high reliability and low maintenance costs. Compared with traditional hydraulic drive loaders, the XC9150 provides significant advantages. It saves over 20% of fuel consumption and increases operational efficiency by more than 15%. The XC9150 features a robust structure built with low-temperature, high-strength structural steel. Key stress-bearing parts are made from high-strength cast steel, enabling it to withstand torque and impact in harsh working conditions. Its powerful appearance matches its reliable performance. When it comes to maintenance, the XC9150 makes your job easier. It has multiple small doors on both sides of the hood that can be easily opened. The small doors can be fully opened to provide you with ample maintenance space for your daily upkeep. Furthermore, it has a driver-centric cockpit design to offer a luxurious driving experience. The electric handle steering ensures precise control while providing enhanced comfort for the driver. Take a look at the LCD screen. The dashboard here displays the vehicle running data and various information at a glance. We have also equipped with the 360 panoramic view reversing camera system, minimizing blinding spots. We prioritize your safety and strive to provide you with the most secure driving experience, just as you would expect parking your car in your garage. In terms of energy efficiency, the XC9150 utilizes one pedal mode, allows the machine to a complete stop without using the mechanical brake, while also recovering some energy. With its exceptional performance, user-friendly maintenance features, luxurious cabin, and advanced safety systems, the XC9150 is truly a game changer of super large loaders. Thank you for joining us today to discover the remarkable XC9150. For more information and to experience its power firsthand, please contact XCMG. XCMG, solely to succeed.
Yeah, it remains one of my biggest career regrets. That XCMG actually invited me to China back in 2019, but the trip coincided with me having my eye socket rebuilt basically here in the UK. And then COVID happened. I wonder if I'll ever get to China now. XCMG, if you're listening, I'd love to come. I really would love to come and see what you're up to over there. Now, let's have one of these. Now, I need to say a very quick good morning. I can't say the name because I can't actually read what it says, but somebody is watching over on YouTube, so good morning to you. Whoever you are, you do get the welcome confetti, as this is your first time on the show. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. If you can let us know where you're watching from, I'd love to hear from you. I'm looking again. Is that... need the other glasses. Bear with me 1 second. Let's see if I can actually read that, shall we? Might Spite, if you're watching, thank you very much indeed for being here. Let us know where you're watching from. Now, let me get back to the show and let me get back to the proper glasses because I look weird like that. Let's have a look. Now, I have traditionally done my best not to surround myself with needy people. I have enough needs of my own. So imagine what it must be like to work with a needy machine.
VisionLink's Needs Review feature is a fast and reliable way to receive notifications on insights and unexpected issues impacting the health and efficient use of your fleet. It allows you to see detailed information about your assets with the ability to add attachments and notes, improving communication across your organization. On the Needs Review homepage, you can see default notifications for health issues, maintenance, and device status. You're also able to configure additional notifications to manage work items that occur based on your specific criteria. Needs Review allows you to focus on what's most important and avoid information overload by categorizing issues into high, medium, and low priority. The feature also provides links to buy parts or schedule service with a local dealer. If you have questions, select the help icon at the top of the page to access VisionLink guided tours and the VisionLink Help Center. Now it's time to see for yourself.
I'm sure that's a terrific system, but imagine that applied to people. Your phone constantly bleeping to say your wife needs a cup of coffee. Your wife needs a lift to work. Your wife forgot to buy dog food. Sadly, that's my real life. The crusher bucket has truly come of age as one of the most important attachments in the contractor's armoury. As space becomes ever more limited on demolition and construction sites, the need to process materials in situ has never been more acute. And if there is no space for a full-size crusher, then an excavator-mounted unit is the next best thing. And amidst a highly competitive market sector, MB Crusher stands tall as its leader in the field. So let's head over to sunny Spain, very sunny Spain at the moment, to see one in action. Now, before anyone mentions dust, please let's all remember that parts of Spain are currently on fire. Dust is probably the least of their concerns. Besides all that, did you see the size and location of that site? Ideal crusher bucket application. Now, I had plenty of comments, and I'll come back to those at the end, but I've had one from Nigel Williams. Good morning, Nigel. Did you get to the bottom of your unauthorized fan page on Instagram? I'll be honest, I'd completely forgotten about this. Nigel alerted me to this a good few weeks back now. Actually, apparently there is it's either a fan page or an attempted hack or something similar fan page of us on Instagram. I've got to be honest, I've not looked since it. I'm sure it's still there. I just haven't looked. But yeah, what is it they say about the sincerest form of flattery? Something like that. Right, let me get on with this because we've got some good stuff to show you in the not too distant future. We need one of these.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
As you will know from our question of the day, I am currently fascinated by machines and companies of the past. In the chat, we'll be discussing those companies that we loved and lost. But first, we're going to look back at one of the manufacturers that's been around forever and yet is still going strong today. This is Case.
Since 1842, each time man has dreamed of confronting new challenges, Case has been there to ensure prosperity and progress through partnership. Jerome Increase Case had his own pioneering spirit, one that drove him to search for ways to improve productivity and better serve customers. Always searching for new and practical innovations, he turned his attention towards design, manufacture, and sale of a thresher that would dramatically improve wheat production. Taken with the idea of identifying and meeting customers' unmet needs, Case continued to develop other new products he believed would help those who harness the earth. He also understood the monetary cycle of farming and saw that true partnership meant addressing the full complement of customer needs. As a result, Case sold on credit when necessary, so these new innovations in productivity were more accessible to all. As the world turned to steam power, so did Case. In 1884, Case unveiled a traction engine that was self-propelled and allowed the operator to steer. By eliminating the need for draft animals, farming was changed forever, and a newer industry, road construction, was revolutionized. Case's road machinery line began with steamrollers and road graders. The earliest models added attachments to the already successful steam engine. Jerome Case continued to seek the input of customers, and he brought more meaningful innovations and modifications based on their requests. This unique relationship contributed to steam tractor technology that would lead the industry. At the same time, continuous product improvement led to the introduction of gasoline-powered tractors. In the 1930s, the industrial sector took notice of the quality and productivity of Case tractors. Case tractors were awarded top honors in contests across the United States and Canada. The new evolution of Case products were more compact, had a shorter turning radius, were more agile, and had the necessary power to operate a wide range of machines and attachments. With this nod of approval, the Case company realized that other markets could benefit from these tools as well. In addition to street and highway work, Case products were soon visible in the nation's forests and parks, and at work around rivers and harbors building the nation's first infrastructure projects. Contractors used them in excavating and grading. Industry used them in place of conveyor belts for material handling. Soon, such diverse markets as railroads, airports, utilities, pipeline, and mining companies all turned to Case products to improve worker productivity and reduce operating costs. The company's experience in creating machines designed specifically for certain applications served it well. In the early 40s, Case was called upon to produce customized equipment for the military during World War II. By 1947, the construction equipment industry was recognized as a top priority at the Case Company, and a separate division was established. Embracing the customer-driven philosophy that Jerome Increase Case had initiated more than 100 years before, the Case Construction Group continued to rely on customer worksite observation and input when developing new products. Whether this involved improving an existing machine or innovating, Case always brought customers to the center of product development. A key example of this customer-driven philosophy was the acquisition of the American Tractor Corporation in 1957, which quickly delivered even more custom solutions to its customers. This bold move brought Case a full line of small and medium-sized crawler loaders, crawler dozers, backhoes, crawler forklifts, trailers, and scarifiers. It also paved the way for the invention of the first fully integrated and manufactured loader backhoe, which to this day remains the industry leader. In the late 60s, Case entered the hydraulic excavator business and introduced the Tomahawk customer experience with the acquisition of Draught Manufacturing. The addition of trenching, boring, and line-laying equipment came with the acquisition of Davis Manufacturing, plus log skidders were added from Beloit Woodland, and also a line of skid steer loaders including a large variety of attachments from Universal Industries. Coupled with Case's wheel loader, the Case Construction Group was now a leader in providing a wide range of high-performance solutions for the construction equipment industry. To harness those solutions and serve as a professional partner to its customers, Case established a dedicated and factory-trained distribution network. This partnership worked so well, Case continued to expand and develop its dealer network. It was this unwavering commitment to staying close to customers that paved the way for breakthroughs in fuel economy, power, and performance. Today, Case's customers demand meaningful technology and simple, useful innovations rather than complex gadgets. The response? Exclusive SCR-only Tier 4 solutions in applications where it makes sense, and Case ProCare, which delivers fleet management and peace of mind to customers of every size. Case continues to develop a full line of construction equipment that simply works harder and smarter. From its humble beginnings in Racine, Wisconsin, to a global force in construction equipment, Case continues to put customers at the center of its product development and corporate decisions. The result? A company that customers can count on to deliver meaningful products and support, endure historical challenges, and help customers adapt to the future's growing technology demands.
I can agree. An absolutely astonishing history. Also find it interesting that Case, like Bobcat on our midweek show last week, originated in the agricultural sector. Today, those are two very distinct market sectors with a very distinct set of needs and applications. The line was a lot more blurred back in the day. There you are. Now, stand by for the shortest ever gripe of the day. Yes, as I've just said, my gripe of the day is very short. I want to get on with talking about all the old kit that we've loved and lost. So here is my gripe of the day. The smell of Subway sandwich shops. Enough to put you off sandwiches for life. That's it. That's my gripe of the day. I'd love to hear yours. What is it that grinds your gears, gets your goat, and generally butters your parsnips? The daily gripe therapy session will return. That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show, but the chat has been very active, talking about all the plant that we've loved and lost. So I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I'll see you again at some point in the future. But if you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around. We'll be right back with the Craic after this final word from our key show sponsor. Good morning, one and all. How the devil are we all doing? I tell you what, I'm going to do two sweeps through the chat today. I'm going to do the chat the chat general, things like this. So good morning to Mr. Hatcher, who has got the usual mixed bag of Welsh weather. Morning, Ken. I hope you're fitting well, my friend. Chris Ford is in the house. Says morning, gang. Gary Muirhead is in the house as well, saying good morning. Mark, good morning, everybody. Yes, good morning, everybody, indeed. Jim Turner is here as well, all the way from sunny Luxembourg. Al Grissom is here as well. We'll come back to Al a bit later in the show. Love old kit, says Jim Turner. Steve Williamson, star of Stage and Screen, is here as well. Mick Norton is in the house. Don't know why I thought there was no show today. No, I don't know either. Our friend Graham Footy Williams is here as well. Morning, Graham. I hope you're fit and well. There is Mark Whiting. Morning, Mark. Yeah, my opening gambit today, which I don't normally do. I normally just chew the fat at the beginning, but as I say, having spent the last 24, 36 hours looking at old kit and how it emerged into the kit that we know and love today, it did strike me about the fact that, you know, there wasn't a day where somebody just said, okay, that's it for hydraulic, that's it for rope shovels. Henceforth, everything will be hydraulic. It was a gradual process that took place over years and decades, and I do get the impression, and I think, looking back, I think that was progress for the sake of efficiency and to make the life of the working man, largely the working man back in the day, but the occasional working woman as well, make their life easier. Whereas today, I think a lot of our progress is dictated to us by the need for environmental change and legislation changes as well. So, yes, I agree, Jim. It does feel like the progress is forced today. My question of the day was this: what equipment brand from the past would you love to see return? And we'll come back to that in just a second. Peter McKenna says on the question of old machines, they do a lot more than these newfangled censored to the hilt. Don't get me wrong, without sensors, you need a truly skilled operator to use them safely and efficiently. We take safe tech for granted. I believe that is true. We'll come back to all those that are saying about their favourite old equipment. But there is Dan Cullen saying good morning, and apparently when I can get it to play, his phone is playing up a bit. That's just what you need, isn't it? Let's have a look. 1903, French bicyclist Maurice Garin probably won the first ever Tour de France. Did not know. Not entirely sure I cared, but thank you for that, Peter. Let me have a look. Just make sure I'm getting everybody's good morning messages, and then we'll go back into the proper chat about the old equipment. Yeah, I think people tended to like the XCMG. Now, I'm just going to throw this one up very quickly. Good morning to Craig Williams over at CSW Groundworks. Craig Williams has a new video out. He's been to see Courtney King to talk about their new D5K. I haven't watched it, so I mean, I'm going to recommend it because it's Craig. I can't recommend it because I've watched it, but I am going to recommend it anyway. I've actually put it to one side because I want to go back, because one of the questions that he addresses within that discussion is, how is the service from Finning? I'd be interested to see exactly what the feedback is on that. Let's have a look. That is a load not to be messed with. Looks a nice piece of kit. Yeah, doesn't look Chinese, does it? Doesn't look Chinese, and as Steve Williamson says, XCMG, the ones to look out for. Totally agree. Al Grierson, that's a huge machine. Yeah, it really is. Will we ever see one of those in the UK? Somehow doubt it, but you never know. An up-and-coming mark, says Peter McKenna. Totally agree. Totally agree. Now, let me have a look. Now, I did mention that Cat Vision Link, needy equipment. Now, believe it or not, and for those of you that are here every day, my wife's car has been in for a recall for the past 3 and a bit weeks. Still no sign of it coming back. So we are still using a different type of car. It's a loan car from our local Kia garage, and it's I can't even remember what the damn thing is called. But man alive, I mean, my wife's car has got all the bells and whistles, you know, reversing sensors and all of the things, and a lane correction and everything else. But this thing, it bleeps when you get in, it bleeps when you start, it beeps when you reverse, it bleeps when you change lanes, it bleeps when somebody pulls away in front. The damn thing is more chatty than, well, certainly more chatty than my children. Gets on your bloody nerves. And as let's have a look. Al Grierson has just said, my Dura coffee machine is incredibly needy, constantly begging for attention and TLC. Yeah, maybe this is where it begins. You know, when you watch things like the Terminator movies, there is this one moment where, machines become self-aware and they take over the world. Maybe that's already started. Maybe they're starting with quiet revolution, just bleeping at us to get on our bloody nerves. And then when we get really fed up, they're going to attack. No, in answer to that, I did not get to the bottom of the unauthorized fan page. I wish I could get excited about things like that. And I know Nick Drew has suffered from this over the years, of people pretending to be him and starting new pages on Facebook and Instagram that use his photograph and basically claim to be him. I don't care. I mean, all I would say is if you are sad enough to think that using my face for some sort of fame or shot at fame will do you any favours, you probably need help, to be honest. So yes. Let's have a look. No, I'm going to ignore that one now for now, because we're going to go back. Crusher buckets, with diesel and haulage being what it is, on-site crushing and screening makes perfect sense. Totally agree. Crusher buckets are great for utilised dust suppression. That was the biggest failure at plant works. People with respiratory problems had to walk through clouds of dust. Yeah, I have to say, and that was very close to the press office, which is, if you're going to send out plumes of smoke, probably the last place you want to be doing it. But I did notice that. Could have done with some dust suppression. And let's face it, there's plenty out there. Plenty of systems that could have rectified that situation. Lack of foresight. I'd like to think they'll get that rectified before the next time. The amount of times I could have done with a crusher bucket or screener bucket, always hear they would get one, but the clients won't pay extra for it. Rather cart the material away or dump in a hole in a hole that could have been recycled. What an absolute waste. Nigel Williams, another fan of the crusher bucket. Every house basher in the site. Let me try that again. Every house bashing site in the country should have one. I want to hire one in for when I do the drive at the house. If you're looking for MB crusher, I'm sure MB Worsley plant will be able to hook you up, so not a problem at all. And still sticking with the crusher buckets, I've told our lot to get one and move it around the sites. I've mentioned this before with a little track-mounted crusher that I saw back in the day, and I'm going back probably 15 years. But imagine that. Imagine having that type of, the MB crusher bucket on, a dedicated machine, and you just go. Imagine it on a wheeled excavator or something that you can road, like a backhoe loader or something like that, so you can go from site to site to site, crush, move on, crush, move on. Ideal. CJ Morris is in the house. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Case had a traction engine at ConExpo 1 year. Yes, I think they did. May have a photograph of that somewhere. Gary Muirhead says Case are better on their own because when they were POC lane, they were rubbish. Yet there is still a bit of me that kind of misses the POC lane, and I think all I miss is the red and white colour scheme. Case have always been a fantastic made product. Their traction engines were among the best. Even today, they go all out. Well-built quality machines, whatever the application. Lots of Case fans in the chat. When you see what Case have done, when you see what Case have now, it's amazing how far they've come. If anyone has seen the Case Quad Track, they will know what I mean by come a long way. I have, and I do. Peter McKenna agrees. Case Quad Track is a fantastic piece of kit, Steve. Case have always been a good bet on decent machines, delivering value for money, says Nigel Williams. CJ Morris, ECY. I remember the times when ECY used to speak to me. ECY sell a great bit of kit for onboard dust suppression. Perhaps plant work should use that next time. Really and truly, I take on board what you're saying, and yes, I think that should be there. But that shouldn't be that shouldn't fall to plant works. Surely that should fall to the manufacturers and the exhibitors that are actually producing dust. Makes perfect sense to me. Now, this is my Freudian slip of the day. Case is owned by Fart. He then goes on to correct that and say Fiat. Where is the crossover there? Because obviously Case is part of Case New Holland, CNH, or CNH Industrial. Where is the Fiat bit in all of that? Because I know isn't Iveco is part of that conglomerate as well? Not entirely sure. I should have a list here, really. The Case 220, cracking machine, maybe even better than the Volvo in some ways. That's a bold claim. Nigel Williams, reminiscing about the Case 580 backhoe loader I used to drive some 20 years ago. I've driven a 580 back in the day. Do you remember, I can't remember exactly where in the country it was, but we were invited to, us press members, were invited to a day with Case. I think it was at a launch of a Case wheel loader, and the way they got us to attend, we would have attended anyway, but they sent us all a little like cardboard presentation box with 2 wheels and an axle. But you had to take that to the launch where you've got the rest of the machine that the axle and the wheels snapped onto. Nice little gimmick, worked very well. Did Case have anything to do with New Holland? Excuse me. Used to see back in the day a Case tractor, and you'd see the same tractor but in New Holland blue. It is Case New Holland, CNH. So yes, they most certainly did. Samota Japan is now Case Excavator is. What? No idea what that means. I remember the Case 1000C Terramatic dozer in the 1960s, way ahead of its time. Let's have a look. Gripe of the day. Some gripe that. Today's gripe for me is the unscrupulous training providers are telling would-be operators they require an MVQ for each individual category on their red cards. I actually had a voice message that I didn't get until this morning, but it came in last night from Graham Williams. And I know Mick Norton said yesterday that obviously we do have this shortage of construction staff, and we are lowering the barrier to entry to get some overseas migrant workers to come back and take part in the construction industry. And there is apparently a way by which overseas workers, if they are already qualified in their country of origin, they can use that and do a desktop test to qualify for the CSCS card. And Graham Footy Williams asked, do they get that for free, or do they have to pay for it? There was another question that he asked as well. Do they get preferential treatment? And surely, and this is kind of extending from Graham's point, we currently have a situation where we are forcing people that are already experienced and currently qualified, we're asking them to requalify, and at the same time we're saying we haven't got enough people, let's get some people in from overseas. Anybody else think that is nonsense? Because I do. Gripe of the day: try working downwind of a biscuit factory when you've eaten all your snap, says Chris Wall. I used to do the PR for Gameco, the slipform paving company, back many moons ago, 30 plus years ago. They were based in Slough, and they were based in Slough within sniffing distance of the Mars factory. I swear to you, the diabetes that I currently suffer was probably caused by me inhaling too deeply Mars flavoured air. Marvellous. Jim Turner: when change is forced, there are monetary benefactors. Ain't that the truth? Let's have a look. Old excavator slew brake would separate the men from the boys. Ain't that the truth? I'll come back to all of those. Chris Ford says, don't mention cars. Mine went to have a slight accident, damage sorted 12 weeks ago. No sign of getting it back. Yeah, we phoned last week, and it almost seemed to surprise them that, oh yeah, we've still got that. I know we're working on it. Unbelievable. When William Stobart buys a new Range Rover, the dealer has to get rid of anything that bleeps, rattles and other noises, as he has a thing for unneeded noises. I have a thing for unneeded noises, and yet I'm still married. Let's have a look. Really enjoyed the case show. So it says Craig Williams. So did I. What you don't realise is I actually watched some of these things along with you, particularly something like that, which was like 7 minutes long. I watched the first 2 minutes before I put it up this morning, and then I watched it with you. So it was, yeah, I was learning as I went along. Crush a bucket on a rubber duck. You must love repairing punctures. Where's the magnet for the rebar? Good question. You can get them. Question of the day, operated a few case backhoes in the 90s. So I tell you what, let me go back. Let me throw this up as a bit of a reminder. I don't want that completely. I want one of those. That's better. I was sat there bored last night and I thought I'll throw, and this was literally off the top of my head. I just came up with a list of manufacturers that I miss. From years gone by, and as I say, we'll come back to this in a second. Ackerman, SED wasn't complete without an Ackerman. Hymac, Smalley, Ruston Basaris, Drott, O&K, Moxie, Pell Job, International Harvester, Wingit, Crop, FAI, and Benford, and I've already mentioned Aveling Barford. I do have a question. For a short while, and I do mean like about 3 months, I actually did the PR for a UK company that was importing an Austrian-built mini excavator, and I've been trying to remember the name of that mini excavator all morning, and I can't. It didn't end well, and I think my brain has actually blocked it out. So if anyone can remember the name of an Austrian-built mini excavator, please let me know and put me out of my misery. So I'm going to go back to the question of the day now, and let's have a look at what you're all saying about stuff that you'd like to bring back. There is the original question of the day. So the first couple of answers, I'm not surprised by this one bit. Peter McKenna would love to see the return of the mighty Hymac. Ken Hatcher says exactly the same thing. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, Hymac for so many years was a complete mainstay of the industry, and yet in the blink of an eye, it wasn't there anymore. And we're going to do this again. Excuse me. We're going to do this again tomorrow, because I'm fairly sure that the makers of Hymac and Pell Job and O&K and Broit and all of these people were probably gaily going about their business before the world crumbled in upon them, or they were swallowed up, or there was a change in ownership, there was a change in industry requirements and so on down the line, and these companies fell by the wayside. Like Priestman would be another one, like Sanderson, FDI Sambron, and I'm just doing these off the top of my head. Tomorrow's question is going to be around which of the companies and brands that we have today do you think you would miss the most tomorrow? I mean, personally, and I'm sure they are going to be here for another 75 years. But if JCB disappeared tomorrow, it would break my heart. Who would you miss the most? That will be the question of the day for tomorrow. So let's have a look. Dan Cullen. There you are. Who did I put in the middle of that picture? I put O&K in bright red. Question of the day, mine would be O&K. Yeah. If you get a moment, my son actually did a bit of a walk around a big face shovel kind of graveyard up in the northeast of England, Banks Mine up in the northeast of England. There was a couple of old O&Ks kicking around there. Sad to see them laid up like that. Priestman, another one. Thanks for that, Chris Ford. Priestman, another absolute mainstay of the industry, and yet, and that sliding counterweight thing that they had looks weird to through modern eyes, but man alive, what a revolutionary machine. Have to go with this question of the day. O&K with some of Apple's R&D budget, so it can catch up a bit. Yeah, imagine some of the modern tech applied to one of those old O&K face shovels. Would be quite the animal, wouldn't it? Let's have a look. Keep rattling through the chat. So many comments, and not all. I should never go through these twice. Question of the day. Here we go. Mick Norton. I would love another day reliving my time on a 10 RB dragline and crane. Ruston Bucyrus roped excavators were a particular challenge, mastering the hand-feet coordination required. Bloody hard work, but a joy to drive. Yeah, and again, I mentioned this at the top of the show, that idea of the fact that we try to make life for the man easier. And you watch some of these old veteran plant shows, and these huge lever. I'm going to get rid of this so you can see my arm action. You get the huge arm action and the bit of wood for your seat and that kind of thing. Obviously, it wouldn't fly today, but at the time, unbeatable. No, that's not related to old machines. Question of the day. Gary Muirhead is also going with Ackerman. I remember operating an Ackerman 16 for bar construction. Wow, she could dig. Yeah, they really. Fun enough, there we are. These things seem to come in pairs. Steve Williamson, also a fan. Is that a Scottish thing? Were Ackerman big in Scotland? I don't honestly remember, but they were. Fine machine. As I say, I used to get to see Ackerman. Well, used to see them on site, obviously, but SED, they always had a very big stand. Very welcoming as well, very helpful to the press. Used to pay Ackerman a visit. Look forward to that every single year. Sadly, no longer here. Let's have a look. Question of the day. McNaughton again. Roped excavators, steering clutches, digging locks, swing locks, drive clutches, brake and lagging assemblies. Eesh, they don't know they're born today. But think about that. And that was the point I was making today. What is that? If you remember those, Mick, what is that? 60 years, maybe 70 years? What will machines look like in 70 years' time? And you know that thing that we do today, that some operators do, of putting oil in machines and checking oil filters and tightening tracks and all of those sort of things. There will come a time when future generations will look back and say, can you imagine the ball ache of having to put oil in a machine? What a nightmare that would have been. That time, that's an example. That time will come and people will look back at what we've got today as, wow, that was old-fashioned. Won't be long. Let's have a look. Yeah, there's that comment about EC White. Used to get on very, very well with EC White, and then they were leaned on by the NFDC to stop supporting me. And I don't speak to them anymore. Not my choice. There you are. Remember the case of 1000C Terramatic Dozer. Doesn't that sounds like something out of an old episode of Thunderbirds, doesn't it? The Terramatic Dozer has run amok. Let's have a look. Yeah, Jim Turner, when change is forced, there are monetary benefactors. The older I get, and listen, bearing in mind what I do for a living, I am a journalist. I'm not that type of journalist, but I am a journalist. But the older I get, the more I look at. You look at the news and you see what the lead story is, and you just sat there, in my instance, scratching my beard, thinking, I wonder what they're covering up with that one thing. Let's get all excited about Hugh Edwards while the government is collapsing under its own weight. Yeah, things like that. Jim Turner says, question of the day. County, they took great products and made them even better. We could do with firms today that could buy basic skid units of popular brands and build sound basic machines from the main manufacturer's products at a vastly reduced price. The plant hire world would be over the moon with that sort of thing, I think. That case video was great. See the history of an amazing product. Yeah. I wish more manufacturers would do the same. Don't mention cars. Mine went into a slight accident damage 12 weeks ago. No sign of getting it back. I feel your pain. We've done that one. There we go. No, it's not that one. It was that one I was after. New Holland replaced Fiat in the tractor front. Basically, it was the same tractor available in either red or blue. Case bought out David Brown in the 80s, I believe. It's sometimes interesting because obviously when these things are going out live as we are today, trying to remember exactly the course of action. But when you actually go back and look back, go to Wikipedia, for example, and chart the history of Case or Caterpillar or somebody, they acquired so-and-so, and then that led to this, and then that led to that. It's like the most amazing family tree you've ever seen. Question 8, Massey backhoe was a reasonable machine. Yes, the Massey backhoe. New Holland 360-210 was a reasonable machine, as was their 180s. Owen Jepson, good morning, Owen. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Yes, definitely. Those folks who know what's being forced on us next get everything snapped up while it's still worth nothing. Ain't that the truth? Yes, I was missing Hanamag. Remember test driving a Hanamag wheel loader many moons ago? Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi, who once had a deal in place, and I can't remember which way around it was, but there was a partnership agreement between Caterpillar and Mitsubishi. Because, and I remember that one particularly well because I was sent down to Sussex, the wilds of Sussex once, back when I was a very sort of green reporter, because somebody had heard word that a Mitsubishi-built Caterpillar excavator had made its way into the UK, and this was at a time when there was things like anti-dumping regulations, and there were machines coming in through not strictly legal routes, and there were question marks about whether it was up to standard or anything. And we got word of the fact that there was a Mitsubishi-built Caterpillar excavator working in Sussex, and I went along, and I literally, camera in hand, but I also took a pair of binoculars, and I was posing. Back in my investigative days, I was posing as a bird watcher. I just stumbled across this Caterpillar machine. That's a fine-looking machine, I said. And then obviously got a bit too interested in trying to get photographs of the serial number plate and everything else. At which point somebody walked away, came back, they'd started up a backhoe loader, and they literally chased me off the site. I literally had to run off the site. I was being chased by a backhoe loader. See, journalists of today don't know they were born. Dad had a mini Pell job in the 80s and a 3C JCB. Pell job, another one. Pell job snapped up by Volvo, if I remember rightly. I'd love to see a return of belly blades on two-wheel drive tractors as a rudimentary motor grader for haul road, says Nigel Williams. See, you wonder about things like that. And I'm all for progress and technology and everything else. But if it ain't broke, leave it. Dan Cullen says, Jim Turner, can you come this evening collect the timber as we're off home tomorrow afternoon? Not sure what that's all about. Kaiser and Wackenhorst, both Austrian mini excavator manufacturers. It was neither of those. Something in the back of my head is telling me that the name of the company began with an L, but I don't know what it was. Why did Hymac 580C excavators have their cab uniquely on the right-hand side? I wish I knew. And it, you know that feeling you get when you're used to somebody wearing glasses, and then one day they don't, and you're looking at them thinking, there's something not quite right about your face. I've looked at some old Hymac videos, literally the last couple of weeks, and you look at it and you think, there's something not right there. What? Oh yeah, it's the cab on the other side. Very, very strange. Stothert and Pitt made everything years ago. Yes, they most certainly did. And I mentioned yesterday, I mean, they didn't make anything, but I mentioned yesterday, Blackwood Hodge. Blackwood Hodge, based up in Brierley Hill in the West Midlands, if I remember rightly. They were the UK dealer for everyone. And virtually every manufacturer in the world came in through Blackwood Hodge at one point. But not only did they do it coming in, but Blackwood Hodge also had facilities around the world, and they were African dealer for, or parts of Africa dealer for, Caterpillar and Case and JCB and Lord alone knows who else. Gone. And Blackwood Hodge, funnily enough, did remind me, I was occasionally invited to Blackwood Hodge, and it was very, very, Aveling Barford was the same, but very, Aveling Barford, did you know Aveling Barford was once owned by British Leyland? Hold on the story. But it was very, very traditionally old English, British thing. Avon and Bath had this oak-panelled boardroom. Blackwood Hodge had an even bigger and even more grand oak-panelled conference room. And it was not unusual for you to be invited to Blackwood Hodge, and you'd go and do whatever it was you were there to do, hear about some new machine they were bringing in from some far-flung location around the world, and then you would be invited into the boardroom, and so the catering department would bring in a huge joint of beef, and the managing director would stand there and carve the beef for his assembled guests. I miss that a lot. Not sure I'll make it tomorrow. Question today. I'm worried about Atlas and Hydrema, both very small and niche companies facing pressure from established brands, having to cope with much more limited R&D budgets. Both good choices. Hydrema. I've always surprised that Hydrema hasn't been swallowed up by somebody else, particularly when you think about what it is that they do. Those of a certain vintage will know that JCB for a while had a couple of mini dump trucks. 712, or was it 714 was the other one? You'd have to think, I mean, there is a market there. It's not a huge market, but you would have to think somebody could come along and just go and just pluck off Hydrema. Atlas, potentially the same. There's an old Ackerman EC250 on a farm in Derbyshire that still runs. Do you know, that doesn't even surprise me in the least. Ackermans did just that. They did run. Jim Turner, yes, I've already answered you on WhatsApp. No, the Austrian manufacturer was not Wacker Neuson. As I say, I'm fairly sure the name began with an L. It'll come to me. There are 3 Duck Ackermans in my local village, both with Encon tilt rotators. A perfect mix of the old and the new. Perfect stuff. I told Chris Baker to get an old Cat D6D to show new dozer ops how good they have it today. Maybe that should be part of the learning process. Try driving one of these. Now here's the real thing. Most machines will last a few lifetimes if they are looked after and maintained properly. Yeah, we mentioned that a week or so ago, about the economy of actually buying a machine that can be refurbed, much like my favourite pair of Broogs. Don't think these modern machines will be around in 30 to 50 years' time. I'm inclined to agree. And I think one of the issues with that is there does feel like there's a lot more to go wrong on them now. You know, when you factor in all the electronics and sensors and Lord alone knows what else, some of that could go horribly wrong and render that machine unusable. Whereas if it was nuts and bolts fairly easily replaced. Being a known disabled person on site has its advantages. They get someone else to dig out the tracks. Nice. Ha ha ha. Nigel Williams, my granddad's old D6R still runs. I'm not allowed near it, says Owen Jepson. Roger Bullivant's dynamic compaction piling rigs, 80 tons, were manufactured in-house with bastardized Ackerman 360 undercarriage. When did that stop? Manufactured in-house. I know there's a few people that still knock out their own very, very weird, wonderful and specific attachments for a particular application, things like demolition poles and that kind of thing. But that used to be a thing. I think that goes back to the days when companies had, you know, their own in-house maintenance departments, and they were a bit more hands-on. You know, they actually had people that could bash metal into the shape that was required. Whatever happened to that? I miss it. Samsung excavators. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm doing this in my head. Were Samsung in bed with JCB at one point? I think they may have been. This is where I could do with Nick Drew in the house. He remembers these things way better than I do. Mark's getting flustered with the chat. Hope that's going to be a regular thing. Could make the show longer. I could go for hours. And I will be sometime in September. Gary is really jogging my noggin with Mitsubishi diggers. Cat used them. Sumitomo to plug build gaps, as did Case and JCB. Sumitomo. You used to see Sumitomo machines on site. Whatever happened? Yes, Mitsubishi Mini was a great little machine. Don't remember the Minis, funnily enough. I just remember the proper full-size ones. Yes, Samsung 360 had one years ago. What a troublesome piece of kit. Was a nice machine. New but a few years old. Had to get rid. Was troublesome. Yes. 714 JCB dumper. Yeah, I was there at the launch. I was at the launch. See, I mean, I could write a book. but I've already done it. I've written a book about recent JCB history, which is available on Amazon, by the way. But I was there for the launch of. I got to see the first JCB built JCB mini excavator before it was available. I also got to see the 712 dump, basically mini dump truck, because it was an ADT but scaled down. I also got to see the Hydra Dig, the high-vis dumper. I've seen an awful lot of JCB machines before they were JCB machines over the years. Remember it well. Talking about Cat machines, they bought the German manufacturer Edda. Yeah, they did. Oddly enough, Caterpillar have been oddly acquisitive. Particularly when you look at when you look at the attachment sector, you look at some of the attachments that are now on offer from Caterpillar. They're Caterpillar through and through. But when you look back, things like, they've still got a base over in Den Bosch in the Netherlands, which used to be the Veractet factory. They acquired Veractet and they bought the intellectual property as well. Hence the reason they are so big in attachments these days. Al Grierson, Hydrema brand is amazing. I want to get a twist on one of those backhoe loaders. Articulated and equal sized wheels would make it a formidable loader. It's another one of those products. I tend to think of Hydrema as the little dump trucks. Obviously they make a backhoe loader as well, but it's one of those machines that seems to have been created in complete isolation up in, what are they, Norwegian, Danish, something like that. They're up in that part of the world. It just in isolation, it's a machine that's almost entirely unique. That's all, folks. Have a super fine day, says Peter McKenna. One moment he asked me to keep the show going, and then he buggers off. Can you believe it? Bye, Peter, says Nigel Williams. And no, Mark, JCB had an agreement with Sumitomo. My apologies. Volvo built Samsung up to grade with the Atlas. Thank you. Wish I had a notepad. Yes, Hydrema, Norwegian, apparently. Steve Williamson says, have you done any work with Kieselmark? The work they do is incredible. Sort of, yes. I got to see the first Kiesel multi-tool carrier that AR Demolition brought into the country maybe 5 or 6 years ago. There's a guy who works for Craic or Kiesel, Timo, who I've met and interviewed a couple of times. Watch them from afar. One of the things I'd love to do is to get over to see what they're up to. I will be dropping them a line. I'm still waiting for full confirmation on what, when and where I'm going to see Senebogen at some point in September. Once I've got that nailed down, I'm going to get in touch with Craic or Kiesel and see if I can swing by there as well, because I agree, some of the work they're doing, particularly some of the work they're doing in the field of demolition, top notch, absolutely top notch. And so it goes on. Hyundai bought Doosan, now to be called Demolition. Yeah, and the wheels continue to roll forward again. I am old enough to remember when Doosan was Daewoo. And they were based down in Wales, which meant that we referred to them as Dyewood. Just saying. AR Demolition had the multi-carrier from Kiesel. Damn fine thing. I think Austin Wilkinson has one now. Didn't know Austin had one, but yeah, Nigel, AR Demolition had one. The last I heard, I think they're up to about 3 now. Absolutely top-notch machine, and obviously based on the Hitachi. Euromatch, says Gary Muirhead. That's Italian, right? It's Euro. Is it Euro Comac? One of those. Peter McKenna says nothing. Right, people. That's an hour and 7 minutes. Just reminiscing. I'll remind you very quickly. Tomorrow we're going to look at, of all the brands that we have today, which one would you miss the most were it to suddenly disappear or be swallowed up? For example, if Elon Musk were to turn his attention to construction equipment and think, I'm going to buy myself a big equipment manufacturer and revolutionize it. I know, I'm going to buy Komatsu. Would we all miss it? Personally, yeah, I would miss it enormously. But which one would you miss the most? Let's have a chat about tomorrow. Until then, everybody, go and have a fantastic day. Enjoy the sunshine if you've got some. And until then, I'll see you all very, very soon.